It's 737-1200, 1-800-383-WOAI. I've got Joaquin Castro on line 3. Hi, Joaquin. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Joe, how are you? I'm
Uh,
doing well.
I'm doing well as well. I'm glad to have you on. Now, you and I don't think have talked to each other before, but I think we've talked on Facebook and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we talked one time when you were doing a guest host for someone, and I can't remember who,
Okay.
on a national show. And you
I've
interviewed.
done that a couple of times, my friend. So
Yeah,
it might have been me. But
yeah,
listen. We appreciate you coming on. You are running for Congressman District 20. It's the seat that's been held by either Henry B. Gonzalez or his son Charles Gonzalez for 51 years now.
that's right.
And it's open for the first time. And this is really, I mean, people have been waiting to try to do something in District 20. This is the first opportunity, and you're jumping
Sure.
on it. We're locking David Rosa in right now. So let me start with
Sure.
you and just say, because a lot of people call and say the Castro brothers this, the Castro brothers that, and it's got to get tiresome. As much as I'm sure you love your brother, I mean, always comparing you to your brother has to get old. Tell me who you are. I want to give you a minute to sort of tell people listening who you are.
Well, of course, I was born and raised here in San Antonio. Grew up all over the West Side and graduated from Thomas Jefferson High School in 1992. Went off to college in California at Stanford and then Harvard Law School. Came back home. I'm an attorney. I'm in my fifth term in the legislature, and my philosophy essentially is that in San Antonio we should do everything that we can to build what I call an infrastructure of opportunity for our folks. That means that just as there's a system of streets and roads and highways that helps us all get to where we want to go on the road, in America there's another kind of infrastructure. It's an infrastructure of opportunity that helps each of us get to where we want to go in life, and that it has to include certain things: great public schools and universities, a strong healthcare system, and an economy built around well-paying jobs. That's fundamentally what I believe. It's what I've been working on in my 5 terms in the legislature, and if I'm elected to Congress, it's what I'll work on in Washington, D.C.
All right, that was just about a minute, a little bit under, and we appreciate that. Now you're working in a legislature, which is a Republican legislature,
Right.
which causes you some serious challenges. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let me, in the meantime, grab David Rosa and give him the same opportunity. David, we appreciate you coming on. How are you?
Doing good, Joe. I'm living the dream. Thanks
Be-
for having me on.
Beautiful. Listen, give me about a minute about who you are.
All right, well, I'm the Republican candidate, as you know. I'm running because I believe this community deserves a strong leader in D.C. I've known my wife for 44 years. We're married 26. We just celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary. We're blessed
Congratulations.
with, thank you so much. We're blessed with 3 children, and I live in Creekside subdivision. But the one thing where I know that I'm more experienced is we have suffered through 4 miscarriages and the death of a baby girl who was only 3 months old. And I tell that story because my campaign treasurer, Dr. Roberto L. Jimenez, the psychiatrist, says that it shows people how dedicated and how much I love people and will continue to fight for this district as I do for my family. Now, as an independent insurance agent, that's how I provide for my family. I started working since I was like 7 years old.
Yeah.
Been a parking lot attendant. I worked for AT&T in headquarters in New York. I got my business background along with anything that you can imagine that you do as a man to provide for your family.
It's about a minute, my man. Let me have you stop there, and I appreciate you introducing yourself. I want to ask the questions and start with Joaquin Castro again. Joaquin, wondering, as I said, you're facing a Republican majority in the state legislature. Should you win this seat, you're going to be facing, without a doubt, the United States House of Representatives doesn't look like it's going to go Democrat. So if you get there, the challenge will be working with the majority. How do you plan on doing that?
Oh, I think the same way I've done in Austin. You probably know, Joe, that I've been vice chair of the Higher Education Committee, for example, in the House of Representatives for the last 2 terms. And if you look at the work that the bills that we've been able to pass, major pieces of legislation, some of the few bipartisan bills in the legislature over the last several years have come out of that committee. For example, we reformed the top 10% rule. It was Republicans and Democrats that worked together to do that. We changed the way that Texas grants are funded, so we introduced essentially a merit component to it. That was a Republican and Democratic effort, and I was proud to be part of a bipartisan effort to do it. As you know, if you're in a minority, a deep minority in a legislative body, you're not going to get anything done unless you can work with the other side.
Right.
And I think I've shown I can do that.
And again, heading into the U.S. Congress, it really depends on who the president's going to be after Tuesday. I know who you want. I know who I want.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, arguing about that isn't going to get us anywhere. What specific challenges, I want you to think about this. I'm going to go to David Rosa in the meantime.
Sure.
What specific challenges would you face with a Republican majority in the House plus a Republican president? We'll talk to you in a second about that. Let me go to David Rosa. David, you're not in politics now, but if you win this seat, you could go and it'll be a Republican majority, as I said, in the House of Representatives. That'll make your life a little bit easier. You might be able to be effective. At the same time, if President Obama were to win again, you'd have to try to work with him as well. How would you do it?
Well, let's just go back to what I was saying. My campaign treasurer is Dr. Roberto L. Jimenez. He's the immediate past chair of the Board of Managers for the University Health System. He's a Democrat. There are a number of Democrats that are supporting me. So I represent all people. It's something that I've done my entire life. I can go and represent the average American because that's who I am. I provide insurance services for large companies here in town. I do it for individuals, and I can do it for the people of the 20th District inside of Washington, D.C., because I have had the experience working for AT&T on Wall Street and when I was in corporate America back in the 80s.
All right, David, we appreciate that. Next question, we'll start with you. What is your pet project? What is, Joaquin, gave me a list of what's important to him, and we'll talk to him in a moment. It'll be his turn. What is, if you get sent to the House of Representatives, David Rose, am going to start working on this day one?
I will start working on the economy. As a businessman, Eagle Ford Shale, there's just an abundance of jobs there. I will work on getting everybody in the community. I have an inventory exercise. We have so many small businesses that I've talked to over these many months. They're looking for workers, and we have an unemployment issue. We can put them together, but we have an intellectual capital in all of the the San Antonio College, Northwest Vista, UTSA. Right here in our own community, we have enough people to fill the jobs that Eagle Ford Shale and some other things. So the first thing I would work on is jobs.
All right, David, we appreciate that. Let me go to Joaquin Castro. And State Representative Castro, what is your pet project? David Rosa says unemployment, got to get jobs, the economy. What's yours? When you get to Washington, you do what day one?
Well, of course, the economy is the most important thing to the nation. There's no question about that. But I want folks to know that if I'm elected, look, I'm a proud Democrat. There's no question about that, and there's no secret about that. But I will work with anybody who is willing to do what's best, not only for our nation, but to help me do what's best for San Antonio. I want to make sure that we keep each of our military bases, that if there is another round of BRAC in the coming years, that we don't lose any of our military bases, that we continue to add on to them, that we also fight for all of our federal money. Remember, that's taxpayer dollars that we've already sent to Washington, D.C. Make sure that we get it back for transportation and infrastructure, for our colleges and universities, in terms of research money so that they can ascend to T1 status, specifically UTSA, to make sure every day that San Antonio is getting its fair share so that we can continue to blossom into an economically powerful city.
Okay, and Representative, I want to start with you on this question. Although the economy, and you're absolutely right by every poll, it doesn't matter if you're in Texas or Alaska, the economy is the number one issue. But an important issue here, and not too far down the list, is the border. If you were all powerful, the president, the entire Congress is Joaquin Castro, what do you do tomorrow by waving a wand to take care of the issue of those who are in this country right now who are illegally in the country? Some want to say undocumented, whatever you want to say. How do you deal with those who are here now? Closing the border, we all agree we should lock down the border and do a better job stopping people from coming here illegally. But there are millions upon millions here now. What do you do with them?
I think we've got to pursue comprehensive immigration reform. I think that we should pass the DREAM Act, for example. The nation has wrestled with this issue for a long time, and we continue to wrestle with it, Joe. But the fact is, like it or not, there are 3 or 4 or 5 major American industries that are powered by undocumented labor. And the perfect example, or the best example of that, is the agriculture industry, which self-reports that 50% of its workers are undocumented, which probably means that 75% of its workers are undocumented. So, in part, we've got to wrestle with reality, accept that reality, and do something pragmatic about it.
It's Joaquin Castro. He is the Democrat running for District 20. It's an open seat. Charles Gonzalez not running for re-election. David, to you, David Rosa is the Republican running for the same seat. What do you do about those who are in this country right now illegally?
Well, being a product of both legal and illegal immigration, Joe, my grandfather came here from Mexico when he was 13 to work on the railroads. I helped push through the business that was focused on the immigration platform to the state GOP. It's the permanent guest worker program. It's an economic issue. We bring them out of the shadows. We give them the opportunity to pay a fine, start paying their taxes, and just like anybody else, you want health care, you pay for it. You want any kind of goods or services, you pay for it. But allows them to now go back and forth to their country of origin safely, securely. It starts to eliminate all of that nonsense with the cartels, but it does not give them a citizenship. They must become a citizen and wait in line just like everyone else.
But you wouldn't send them back in the meantime?
No. Well, look, the current president went ahead and gave them a 2-year temporary. We're saying, and it was passed by our state Republican Party, permanent.
I want to do some quick hits here because I know that Joaquin's got to go in about 2.5, 3 minutes. So let me start with you, David. I'm going to go down the list, and I need a very, very short answer on each one of these issues, okay?
Go ahead.
Here we go. Abortion.
Against. I'm pro-life Catholic, Orthodox.
Gay marriage.
In the Catholic Church, we don't allow for it. The government does not need to be giving licenses for marriage.
Capital punishment.
Capital punishment, I'm again a pro-life for conception to natural death.
So you're against capital punishment?
Conception to natural death, but the state has
David,
right.
just give me a yes or no. I'm not being cute. I'm just wondering.
You're
against it then?
Yes.
Okay.
Conception to natural death, correct.
Okay. Obamacare.
Oh, it's got to be reformed. It's too costly. It went over to $2.1 trillion in an insurance agent. It's a debacle.
What do you do about the tax code? And
tax
I know
code,
I want a short answer, which is tough, but just give me one.
No. As a businessman, we need to simplify it. That's as simple as I can make it. Just simplify it and make it more equitable. Right now, it's over-regulation. It's so ambiguous, nobody knows how to figure it out.
All right, David, hold on a second. Let me go to Joaquin Castro, State Representative Joaquin Castro, Democrat. Joaquin, let's go down that list as well. Abortion.
Should be safe and legal.
In every case?
Safe and legal.
Okay. Gay marriage.
For marriage equality.
So you're for gay marriage. I mean, I want to hold you to it like I did David. I mean, he tried to slink out of capital punishment too.
And let me explain, Joe, my position.
Sure.
You know, David made a reference to the church. I don't think the government should tell the church who it needs to marry. Okay. At the same time, I don't believe it's the government's place to determine who should get a marriage. I'm sorry, I don't believe it's the church's place to determine who should get a marriage license.
Okay. Capital punishment.
I'm okay with it, although in Texas, there have been a lot of issues with it where I think that there should be very careful DNA screening to make sure that, the people that are being convicted and sent to death row belong there.
I'm going to be honest with you. You guys are confusing me. He's against it, and you're okay with it? Okay. Obamacare.
I support it.
As it is.
No, listen, anytime you pass a bill that's so long, I saw this in the state legislature, I believe that you're going to have to go back and make some tweaks.
Okay.
And I look forward to working on that. But I support the law, sure.
What do you do with taxation? Is it good the way it is, or do we have to change it?
Well, I think that we should allow some of the Bush tax cuts to expire, for example. I do think that we need to look at the tax code, perhaps simplify it and reform it.
I know that you've got to go. I'll give you 30 seconds to wrap it up, then I'll give him 30 seconds. I know you've got to run, Representative.
Sure. No, well, Joe, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for having us on the show and for giving us this opportunity to speak to the voters. And to the voters, I would just say that I want you to know that if you elect me, that I will always put the people I represent over the party that I come from, that I'll always put San Antonio first and work with anyone who's willing to do that in the United States Congress, and that I'm very proud to be a San Antonian. This city has really been everything to me, and I'm very happy to be running for this office.
Joaquin, thanks for taking the time. We appreciate that. Let's give David Rosa on the final word here. David, go ahead. 30 seconds.
Well, Joe, I'm a husband of 26 years. I've known my wife for 44, 3 children. And I'm going to represent the people because they're looking for somebody who's not partisan in the sense, like earlier when you said, if Joaquin goes, we know he's going to vote Democrat. If David goes, he's Republican. Look at the comment that was made, or the quote that John Gonzalez wrote on me in the San Antonio Express News. I'm an independent because I have a neighbor here in the mall where he says, David, I'm an ACLU member, board member, but I'm going to vote for you because I feel you have the best interest of everybody at heart.
I got to wrap it up. David, I appreciate it. I actually gave you a little bit more than 30, but I appreciate your time. I wish you both very good luck, and now we'll take a ton of phone calls from people who want to comment on this. Keep it here on WOAI.